Well, good afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and get us started. It is 3 o'clock, so I want to stay really respectful of everybody's time. I know we've got lots of stuff going on, so I want to make sure we stay as true to time as we can. I want to welcome you to our third group mentoring session on CommunAbility. My name is Beth Butler Fatal, and I am Executive Director of Disability in North Carolina. We are a private nonprofit here in North Carolina, committed to empowering businesses across our state to achieve disability inclusion and equality. As part of that work, we have launched our CommunAbility DINC mentoring program through the generous help and support of Wells Fargo, who are really committed to expanding our mentoring program to all 10 historically Black colleges and universities across our state. So we are very excited to bring you today's group session and continue this important work with our young people, the talent of college students across our state, and connecting them with business mentors to increase that network while they're still in school, that network and connection to businesses, so that we can help increase the employment rate among our young college students with disabilities as they transition into careers. Today, our topic is on building your professional brand, and you are in for a treat. Our guest speaker is Mayia Warren, who you'll hear from in just a moment. So before we jump into the agenda, I did want to invite our career advocates that are on the line with us today to turn their cameras on, if they would, and join me just to give you an opportunity to introduce yourselves. I know we've got a couple online with us now. And so invite you guys to join us and introduce yourselves, tell us what you're studying, and what just if you have any words to share about the CommunAbility program. So Leanne, we'll start with you.
Hi everyone, my name is Leanne Tarigny. I'm the career advocate here at UNC Charlotte. I'm currently in the Master's of Psychology program. And I'm just really excited about the program, and we have almost everyone paired with a mentor at this point, which is very exciting. I am seeing some familiar names, so that's awesome, and I'm just looking forward to connecting with everyone, and encourage you all to use the chat and share what you hope to get out of the program in today's meeting.
Great. Thanks, Leanne. Michael?
Hello, my name is Michael Alford. I am a career advocate at North Carolina A&T State University and a major in media design. And I'm excited to connect with you guys and find creative ways to pair you with mentors.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Anybody else on the line? I know we've got some folks that are on spring break as well. So I didn't see, is Janila or Micah? I didn't see them join yet. Okay, great. Well, let's go ahead and jump in. One of the things that I wanted to bring to your attention is, as Leanne said, many of you have been paired with your mentees, so we're excited about that. Understanding that part of the connections that you make with your students and with your mentors, we really want to give you some guidance in ways to just topics that you could cover, questions to prompt conversation. And so we've come up with a mentor-mentee program guide that, and if I can stop sharing here, and then I'll do a new share and share just briefly that program guide. You should be receiving these as you are paired with your mentors and mentees. But this program guide, again, is just a series of topics and ideas, and then some questions. And what we would ask is that as you begin those one-on-one sessions with your mentors and your mentees, that you complete these forms throughout your time with your mentor or mentee, and then return these to us at the end of the semester. And this is going to just give us an opportunity to pull some data, learn a little bit more, and really inform the process as we go forward. And that's what's going to make this program better and more effective for everyone. So again, excited about it. I know you've been, Leanne, you've been busy at work as well, identifying mentors and matching mentees. And Michael, I know you guys continue to source mentees on the campuses. So this is an ongoing program, and we're excited about the energy and the importance of making these connections with these students while they are still in college, and then creating opportunities for internship programs, for employment opportunities, apprenticeship programs, whatever that might look like, informing these students of the opportunities ahead for them as they move into their careers. All right, and so at this point, I want to go ahead and pull the agenda back up. And I'm going to ask my friend, Lindsay Kroger, to join us. We just thought it would be a good idea to have a company spotlight. Ingersoll Rand, Lindsay Kroger is plant manager at Ingersoll Rand at their distribution and logistics center. And I've just invited her on to just share just for a few minutes about some of the things that are happening at Ingersoll Rand. So Lindsay?
Well, thank you, Beth, and thanks for having me. Excited to be here and speak to you all, and also hear from our speaker today. So just to share a little bit about Ingersoll Rand, we are local. We are headquartered in Davidson, North Carolina. We have been in business for a very long time. If you've never heard about us, with combined over 180 years total. We recently went through a merger. 180 years is a long time. This is how we get there. We merged with Gardner Denver. So I like to say it's a complementary competitor. So Ingersoll Rand and Gardner Denver merged together, both in business for, to combined 180 years. So we build compressors. We are in nearly every industry that's out there, from medical, gas, oil, fluid, you name it, we're out there, and somehow touch that between some of our pumps and compressors. With our corporate office here locally, we actually have our largest North America manufacturing plant in Mocksville. So it's a little bit further north from here, closer to the Winston-Salem area. And then we have the distribution center, which is my site down here in Charlotte, and then our corporate office in the Davidson area. We also have another site in Southern Pines, so a little bit further east. And they actually manufacture our tools and our pumps out there. So really well established in the North Carolina area. Something really great about Ingersoll Rand is we've been on a DE&I journey, so diversity, equity, and inclusion journey for a while now. And we are heavily involved in creating an environment that's inclusive of anyone and everyone, especially with different backgrounds. Just as a kind of a testament to that, right before this meeting, I was on my inclusion group. I'm on one of the boards for the disability inclusion group, and also how I met Beth. But we have 7 inclusion groups here at the company, and these are all employee driven and employee run. So we have a Pride Inclusion Group, Women's Inclusion Group, Black Employee Network, OLA, our Hispanic inclusion group, and then our Asian inclusion group, and then our disability inclusion group. And these are all create events, activities, engagement, education, you name it. It just depends how much you want to get involved or how little, or if you just want to, be a passerby, you don't have to be involved in any. But Ingersoll Rand is committed to this. It's one of our core focuses for the last couple years and this year as well. I personally have had some amazing experience with employees that have different types of disabilities, whether apparent or non-apparent. I've had some amazing experience in the past with employees, and it really has just opened the site that I was in up to a whole different candidate pool that we never realized that was out there. And it really brought the team together. So something I'm pretty passionate about. That's how I found my passion, and being able to bring some of that experience, and then of course, make that impact on Ingersoll Rand. I've been with the company about 4 years and been in the site the whole time. We currently have a internship posting up for, it's called, I think, a materials or supply chain intern. We have an internship program with over 20 different interns across the country. Some of them have been in Davidson. I believe they've already moved along pretty far along in that process, and those roles are filled. Ours is open. We are currently sourcing for an intern this summer. We also have a number of other openings all the time, whether it be in leadership or materials planning. Just it kind of depends on where you want to go with your career, but Ingersoll Rand really highly seeks out students and folks that in the supply chain background or engineering background. Of course, you could have other backgrounds and experiences as well. Mine's just in business, and I've managed to be pretty successful here. I have a team that has been grown from within. I've had over, I believe it was 19 promotions last year internally. So I like to see my team get in and grow. That is also something that Ingersoll Rand is launching this year. It'll be the first class coming through, the first cohort in this spring, and it'll be early talent program where you'll work in a number of different areas. I think it's a 2 or 3 year program. So there's a lot of really good things going on at this company. We are doing big things. If you follow stock price, it's a fun stock to follow. We've had a really great write-up from some investors as well very recently. So lots of acquisitions going on, lots of ways to learn and lots of ways to get involved, whether it's just as an interest level with inclusion groups or as career advice, just like you guys are doing today with mentoring. We do that as well through the inclusion groups and mentors. So overall, really great company. Got a chance to kind of sell it. So thank you, Beth. We are committed to inclusion. So if anyone is out there looking for roles or will be in the next couple years, please look us up, make a connection. You can look me up on LinkedIn. Happy to help answer any questions, or if you see something out there that you're interested in, happy to share any information I can.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Lindsay. And Lindsay,
there's a question in the chat box for you.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say, is that people can use that chat box to generate questions. So,
okay. So we use Teams, so I'm not as comfortable with Zoom, so I'm getting there.
No worries. We'll keep it read for you.
Okay.
Someone wants to know how many employees at your plant in Davidson.
So I'm in Charlotte, so we're off the Harris Boulevard exit, so 77 and 485. We have about 180 employees. About 48 of those are in salary roles, and the rest of them are in hourly roles. And then our Moxville plant up north, they're close to 300 employees. And the Davidson, it's just the corporate office, so it's a pretty small staff there. But that's where you would get like your HR partners, our executive leadership team. There's a few roles there, but I would say they're probably not as, they're not entry-level roles. Not saying that there won't be, because we're growing fast. So yeah, I guess that's kind of the local area here. I think everyone's mostly local. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Well, they're across the state, actually. Yeah.
Okay, well then that's good. I will share, I know see the website for the link. I'll share our careers. It's Ingersoll Rand Careers. But you can look up and you can see any sites out there. I will shout out to Beth for getting us connected. We are on our abilities
Yes.
career portal as well as of last month. So our sites across the country are listed, or our jobs across the country are listed there as well.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I was gonna mention that. So for those that are familiar with the Disability in North Carolina website, or our website, our jobs ability portal, Ingersoll Rand posts their jobs through that portal as well. So for those that have not checked that out, please do so. And we'll talk more about that on our session next time on March 22nd. We're going to bring John Robinson in to share a bit about that jobs ability portal. And for the students that are online, if I say students, we're all always kind of looking for a job. But if you are a person with a disability on today's call and you are interested in building your profile so that you can be out there among the talent pool of individuals that are have exposure to these positions, please visit our website and check that out and build your career profile. It is free for those individuals that are building their career profile. So take a minute and check that out. Thank you, Lindsay. We appreciate you very much. Look forward to growing our partnership and relationship. And thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Beth.
Right. Fantastic. So keep the conversation going in the chat box as well. I forgot to say that, but that's a great way for those that are on today's call to connect with one another. Feel free to make comments if you've got questions or an interest. We've got our career advocates watching that chat box, and Pat Kuehl, my operations director as well, will be watching the chat. So thank you so much for that. And so moving on to the guest presenter that we have today, I want to introduce to you Mayia Warren. Mayia lives in, is it Greensboro now, Mayia, or are you in Winston-Salem now?
I am in Whitsett, which is between Greensboro and Burlington.
Burlington. Okay. So, but Mayia is going to share a bit about her lived experience. She has a number of different types of disabilities, including albinism, hypermobility spectrum disorder, chronic migraine disease, and chronic fatigue syndrome. She holds a bachelor's degree in kinesiology from UNC-Greensboro. She is a music artist, a visual artist, digital content creator. She's a YouTuber, a podcaster, a writer, a speaker, and just is an incredibly talented individual. And you are really in for a treat. So Mayia, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you so much for joining us, and let me just put a plug in here too. If those that have not heard Mayia, I said she's a podcaster, but she has an amazing podcast called Better Not Bitter. So I'm just going to say, if you've got some time, if you like to listen to podcasts, you want to check that one out because it's really remarkable. And so with that, Mayia, welcome, and thanks for being here.
Thank you, Ms. Beth, for that introduction, and hello to everyone. I'm glad to be here, and I so appreciate each and every one of your time, and what you've done to get to this point. So I would just go ahead and give a disclaimer. I don't like talking at people. So if there's anything I say, if there's anything that you have a question about or need clarification on, feel free to use the raise your hand feature in Zoom or post it in the chat, and someone will let me know that you have responded. So in that list of things that's noted that I operate in, one of those things is digital content creation. And I kind of got into that because two things. I'm a graphic design artist. So I've always been fascinated by creating infographics and, everything from fonts on cereal boxes to website management, app management. So that, and also passionate about advocacy in terms of educating people, bringing awareness to things, and then ultimately using my background in program design to kind of facilitate some real lasting change. So when everyone considers social media and content creation, whether it be you're building your brand on LinkedIn, Indeed, or Instagram or Facebook, regardless of the platform, as someone who's been in this I'd say vein of creation for a while, there's some key things that have helped me and some things that I've noticed. So one thing I tell people is you gotta know your why. And that may sound cliche, but it really is impactful, more impactful than that question would have you to believe, because if you understand why you're doing what you're doing, that will also show you why you're getting the results you're getting, or the lack thereof. So the first thing is identity. So for those of us with disabilities, whether they're mobility related, whether they're sensory related, regardless of what type of classification you fall in terms of disability, you still are a human being. So who are you? If we were to break you down as a person, down to your most basic components, who are you? What do you like? What don't you like? What are you passionate about? What frustrates you? And then as you're able to answer those questions, now you can kind of look at the things that inform your perspective, like navigating life with a disability. And the reason I say that is because your perspective is going to be informed by some of the barriers you faced in the past. It's going to be informed by some of the encounters you've had with people, whether good, bad, or indifferent. It's going to be faced by some of the ways that you've adapted to your surroundings, either in an unhealthy capacity by masking maybe your disability or symptoms, or by actually being open and disclosing them. For whatever context that you maneuver with, like considering that has an impact on every aspect of your life, and it goes beyond creating content. Because if you understand who you are in light of navigating the world differently, then you'll have a better context for what you can allow in terms of your time, what you can allow in terms of your attention, and what you need in terms of interdependence, like who you can call on to be of assistance to you. The second part of the identity piece is, what can you bring to the table? Now I'm going to ask a rhetorical question. If you want to come off mute and answer it, that you're more than willing, and that is, be honest with yourself. And look in the mirror, or even ask yourself right now, if you are viewing your capabilities or abilities through the lens of what you feel like you're not able to do, or what you feel like you can't do compared to people around you. Many people are going into career and IT fields and finance and a lot of technical avenues. And anytime you're in a field that is competitive by nature, whether you're on campus or on an online program, by nature, you kind of feel some of that pressure. And then you tack on navigating life differently from a disability perspective. And now there's that added pressure of knowing that you're going to have to do it differently. And because you've never seen it done differently, it can make you feel deficient at times, even though that's not true. So being able to evaluate from a healthy perspective, what can I bring to the table? I know one of the things that as a full-time advocate that I've had to be aware of is like, oh, okay, so I know the things that pose barriers for me, like very small font and bright lighting and a whole list of things. But I've begun when I first started, especially, to look at the things that I'm good at. So I'm good at music, like I play guitar, piano, I'm good at writing and written communication. I'm good at utilizing technology. And the more I began to look at the things that I generally can bring to the table from a hard skill perspective, but also a soft skill perspective, it kind of opened up, I would say, a perspective about myself and how sometimes we can shortchange our abilities. One of the soft skills that I had to really be aware of is like, oh, so even though I have low vision and I'm not able to really see people from a speaking perspective when I'm on stages or online or what have you, that has made me really sensitive to discerning what people in the room need to hear or what needs to be said at any given point in time. And it's a skill that I didn't even realize I was building because I've been doing it my entire life because of my vision impairment. And so finding things about how you navigate with a disability that aren't self-deprecating. Like sometimes we can, if we're being honest, we don't talk very kindly to ourselves, especially when there's high stress. You got multiple papers due, multiple assignments, and it feel like all the professors got together to schedule their assignments at the same due date and time. And those things can kind of weigh on you. So being aware and taking assessment of who you are as a person in totality and what can you bring in and what can you bring to the table. So now you get into representation. How do you want to be known? So many times people want to reach out to me about creating a podcast or doing digital content creation. But what most people don't understand is in order to be effective at anything, you need to be the same person online that you are offline. Anytime there is a disconnect between the two, you are presenting a fictional persona of yourself, and it's only a matter of time before that falls apart. You may see content creators and peers who can knock out assignments as soon as they get back to their dorm, or who can knock out graduate application after graduate application or internship after internship, whereas you might be able to take on one thing at a time, and that doesn't make it any less valuable. But understanding that how you want to be known should never be contingent upon how you feel like people should respond to you. It should always be contingent upon, you know who you are, you know what you bring to the table. And so now you understand that you're going to be unique in how you present yourself, and you're going to be unique in how you communicate. You're going to be unique in how you create. Everything about you is going to be unique. And that's a good thing. And it kind of, in many ways, when I talk to people, sometimes they feel, how can I say it nicely? They tend to get into what I like to call a numbers game. So whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's social media, all those platforms adhere to a certain formula that is an algorithm. An algorithm is designed to drive creators toward a certain outcome if they play by the rules of that algorithm. But if we're all supposed to be unique in how we think and maneuver, then by nature, how we create, how we work with our peers, how we collaborate with coworkers, that is going to be unique. And so it's not always going to look like what the algorithm would much rather have you driven towards. As a matter of fact, it's going to have you be the person in the room that when you are vocal about accommodations that you need, is going to spark curiosity. It's going to disrupt spaces where ableism is in a large presence. It's going to cause you to have to step out of your comfort zone. And it's much easier to play the game. But it's a lot harder to continue to play that game in long term, because you burn yourself out. You end up honestly contributing negatively to your mental health. If you think about it, one of the reasons why social media is not recommended for people under the age of 18 is because the impact on mental health. Like, someone gets exposed to what this content creator or influencer is doing, or this person that they aspire to be like is doing, and now you consciously internalize that, and you're fed with these messages of inadequacy, but they're all coming from an algorithm telling you that you should be like this other person. But if you're supposed to be unique and that person is unique, why would you want to be just like them in the first place? You have a unique opportunity, not just online, but in real life, to be a person that continues to lead, not just by participating, to the status quo, but also by collaborating and lending your voice when necessary. One thing I like to say is people with disabilities, we more often than not have a perspective that the world needs, whether it's in the office, which is one of the reasons why I love Disability Inclusion North Carolina, whether it's in, school, high school, secondary education, regardless of what it is, we're able to see things from a different angle because we've had to adapt in ways that most people without disabilities have not had to adapt. So I'm gonna stop right there, and I want to see if anyone has any questions or comments.
Great, Maya, thank you. Chat, are there any questions in the chat at this point?
People are saying this is great.
Okay.
Great points, Maya.
All right.
Also check out Maya's album. It should be on all streaming platforms.
Awesome.
A lot of people want to connect with you. So I have a question.
Yes.
So, the topic that we titled this was building your personal brand.
Yep.
And actually you've kind of gone completely around that to say your brand has to be you authentically.
Yes, and I've only hit on the first 3 points. We've got 4 more to go.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
I'm buckling up. I'm ready for the rest.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a pause just in case I missed the question or something.
No,
But everybody's good. I'll continue. So awesome. So the last point was representation. That's how you want to be known. Then the next point is actually perspective. So how do you see yourself? Whether it's when you look in the mirror or when someone asks you, I always used to hate this question, but it's the question of, if you could think of 5 words that describe you, what would they be? And it forces you to think of answers that aren't shallow, like hard worker, great team player. Like, it forces you to think of, okay, how do I see myself? And sometimes what we don't realize is the way in which we see ourselves is informed by how people respond to us. And growing up in our early stages of life, that is how we get some of our main core messages about who we are. But transitioning from high school to adulthood, it becomes more a matter of, yes, the people that are trustworthy, that love you, that know you, they inform those things about you. But ultimately, there are going to be people who disagree because they don't know you, people who disagree because they don't care to know you, and people who disagree because everybody is at the center of their own universe, And so understanding how you want to be known and how you see yourself impacts both of those things. Give you an example. On social media, And the reason I tie in LinkedIn is because that is basically social media networking. It is basically business and corporate Instagram, in my opinion. And so you'll have someone create content that is the exact antithesis or the opposite of who they are as a person in real life. And it shows in the way that they try to engage with an audience, or post these motivational quotes, or, you know, do these weird TikTok dances to prove a serious point. But none of that embodies who they are as a person, and you can tell. One of the things that researchers have shown is that Generation Z, more than any other generation before it, can tell when people are faking the funk, so much so that one of the core values of this generation is authenticity. So if you are not authentic in the spaces that you enter, whether they be online or offline, people can tell. And honestly, with kind of the proliferation of the pandemic, it's becoming a lot less easy for someone to put up an act for that long because of burnout and the increasing demand that each specific platform has. And then we get into self-disclosure. So this can be a touchy topic. It really just depends on the person. And honestly, what a lot of people don't consider is that it has more to do with how you see yourself and how you want to be known than you think. I was talking with a cohort of mine in a committee that I'm a part of. And she's an older lady, about a couple decades older than me. And she was just talking about also living with low vision. And for those who don't know, low vision is a spectrum of vision impairment that can range from correctable vision to a certain degree to total blindness. So there's a lot of nuance in that. But she was going on about her journey and how, like, you know, I was in therapy and now I just think it's time to start this particular initiative. But as she was talking about living with low vision and therapy, I could tell that there was still a lot of tension within herself as she uttered the words that most motivational speakers would consider impactful. But there was a disconnect in her tone. There was a disconnect. And when I began to kind of discuss it with her and we picked it apart, she could tell that there were still some things in her journey of navigating life with a disability that she was not yet fully okay or accepting of. One of those things is not being able to drive as a grown woman with 2 kids. So what are some of the things in your own journey of navigating life with a disability that you would love to think that you're doing better, but if you really take an honest assessment, if someone were to ask you about that thing, it might trigger you or frustrate you or cause you to respond out of character. One of the things that was a big trigger point for me growing up was when someone would ask me if I was adopted, because I have albinism, which is a condition meaning I lack pigmentation in my eyes, hair, and skin. So I'm a Black woman with no pigmentation. So kids in class would be like, "Are you adopted?" And I'd be like, "No, how many times do I have to tell y'all I'm not adopted?" But their continued confusion about who I was contributed to my personal tension that I was wrestling with of who I was, because growing up, my parents didn't have the information and no one told me while I was receiving vision impairment services and getting some of the needs that I had. So what is that for you in your journey personally? So once you start opening that Pandora's box, you get into some misconceptions. You might have to. Oh,
I'm reading some more chats. People are really, really jumping into here with a lot of thoughts. One of them is, what is your take on responding to the question about disclosure in an application for a job? And of course, the concern is that you might be passed over if you check the box yes.
I have several perspectives or several tidbits of the same perspective. And so first of all, me personally, and one thing I would like everybody to know, I'm not a one size fits all type of person because everybody's an individual and there are different circumstances. But for me personally, I have found it beneficial to self-disclose when necessary. And for me, what seems necessary might be different for you and your role. For me, when I was applying for a job at this well-known state agency, they already knew that I had a disability, but they didn't know about all the other disabilities. So when they reached out to me, because my work ethic and my resume spoke louder than any other concern about my physical health, they were like, oh, we'll accommodate you. That is not always the case. And I recognize that. So understanding a couple of things. One, it comes down to the culture of the place that you're applying to. If that culture of that organization is as amazing as it is to get a job, if the culture of that place does not already have inclusion a part of it, and you have an inkling of, they're not going to pick me because I have a disability, to a certain degree, that would be a red flag. And maybe there might have to be some crucial conversations there. And maybe you can be there to broaden that context. It just depends. And then the last thing I would say is self-disclosure can be a sensitive topic for many because there can be trauma associated with previous experiences where you did self-disclose and it didn't go the way that it should have. And so that I would say, again, it's that looking at the parts of your journey that you still haven't fully accepted. Because if something that happened in the past is triggering me now, then that means I didn't even take time to process that then. So now it's kind of like going back, okay, what changes do I need to make? For some of us, it might need to be doing less. I know it's not a fun thing to say, but I think we do too much because we're trying to compete and we're only doing more harm to ourselves. You can do 10 things poorly. But if you choose to do one thing, you do it well, you'll get a lot of results from that and being consistency. And so, like I remember in high school, a lot of people would, in college, would volunteer and do internships for things that they had zero passion for, but they were what I like to call resume chasers. But what people don't realize is that employers can distinguish between resume chasers and people who actually had a footprint in their community. So recognizing that, and also like do your research on the culture of the place that you're trying to apply. And sometimes that means you're there to change it. And sometimes it means that culture is not meant for you to change. And there has to be some other things in place, especially if they're not already accommodating to the people that work there without disabilities. That's another red flag.
Maya, you are stirring up so many comments. I'm just telling you. Tevin Price is on the line with us. And Tevin, I saw you had your hand up. Did you want to make a comment?
Yes, I did want to make a comment. I'm reading some of the questions and responding as well and getting questions myself. And so Maya, if you don't mind, I tag along and resonate with everything that you're saying. In terms of the questions about specifically identifying on some of the forms where there's voluntary information.
Oh, he froze on my end.
About self-disclosure, which is.
You froze.
Can you hear me?
Kevin? Yeah,
We can. Yeah, you froze for a minute. So you started to say.
Okay, so can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I was just saying, speaking from personal experience and also studying and involvement with the EEOC and things of that nature. These documents from a recruiting standpoint, recruiters don't actually see that information when you choose to disclose, but companies do use them in different facets. such as the business resource groups or enterprise mobility resource groups like Lindsay shared earlier. They'll use that information so they know who their constituents are in terms of their employees. But it also helps that business to help you as the individual. When I first came to Novant, I did have that fear. But like Maya said, do your research, know who you're dealing with, know where that company is in terms of their disability journey. And actually disclosing was to my favor because they weren't 100% ready for somebody with a visual impairment. But me stepping into that space and saying, hey, this is what I need to be successful, help them provide me what I needed to be successful. And I've almost been two years now. So.
And Tevin, like that last point that you said, that's what I'm talking about when I say that it's not a one size fits all thing. And there's when I mentioned sometimes you're there to change the culture, and other times that there are things that should be there for you to change the culture that aren't there already in place. And so it's going to be up for y'all to kind of discern that. Someone asked, what if they select, I do not wish to answer? That is totally up to you. And in my perspective, like I said, everybody's situation and opportunity is unique. Sometimes you're getting, you have more of an in from the job because of someone who knows someone who works there, whereas going in totally on your lonesome. So that I would say it's up to you. Like, do you feel like the way that you navigate fulfilling the role that you applied for, do you think there's anything in the context of your disability that would either pose a barrier, as in you might need accommodations, or you're fine without it? Like, I'll give you an example. I was a graphic designer for a former church that I used to go to. When I got hired, I didn't mention anything about disability. As a matter of fact, it wasn't necessary because I was efficient at what I did. And the only time I brought up some of the symptoms that I was navigating is if there was a situation where I could not fulfill the roles that I signed up to fill because of a health emergency. And then I communicated. So it's really going to be up to the specific situation. It's going to be up to your discernment. It's going to be up to ultimately the path that you're trying to take. And as far as it being for small businesses, I would say it would be the same thing. And honestly, I feel like it would be very advantageous to kind of figure out the role that you desire to play in that organization in terms of fulfilling that job description. And if you feel like there's something in there, like, okay, I can do this, but it may take more time. That's totally up to you to communicate that. But at the same time, you have to, again, know who you are and know what you bring to the table. Because if nothing about you having a vision impairment or hearing impairment is going to impact that ultimate job description, then it's totally up to you to mention it. And then, so yeah.
Thanks, Maya. These are awesome comments. You know, one of the other things I think about is when you talk about disclosure, and I think you're right. I think it's really on a case-by-case basis,
Yes.
you know, for each individual and for each individual circumstances.
You're right.
One of our first presenters in our group session was Tom Kolkloff with the EEOC. And one of the things that he shared with the group is, you know, the fact that an individual has a disability and discloses that disability when they're applying for state and federal jobs is that it qualifies them for a Schedule A hire. And what that means is that is a separate process that really expedites their process to getting hired. So it cuts through a lot of the red tape associated with, you know, getting on board with state and federal government. And it's designed, you know, to really quickly transition individuals with disabilities into employment. And so in that respect, that could be a tremendous value for a candidate with a disability to disclose.
Yeah, and to your point, Ms. Beth, I know it's not the most clear-cut answer to say that something's a case-by-case basis. But honestly,
Yeah.
I think the people who try to give you a one-size-fits-all answer are actually doing you more of a disservice, because they're not considering you, what you're bringing to the table, what your career goals are, some of the barriers you've had. Like, that's one, when we try to put people in a one-size-fits-all box, especially with disability, you are robbing them of the totality of their human experience, because you're trying to fill a certain criteria. So that's why I generally lean towards case by case. And someone mentioned non-apparent disabilities, or what I like to call invisible disabilities, which I have 4 of. And I'm actually an ambassador for the Invisible Disabilities Association. So in invisible disabilities, I'm just going to be 100 with you. American society and our global society has a lot of work to do in terms of embracing that concept. I'll give you some statistics. 95% of the large category of disability is invisible. 5% are those disabilities that lead to mobility aid use, use of wheelchairs, different things like that. And on top of that, very rarely are people that you meet with a disability who have one or the other. So I have friends who utilize a wheelchair because of muscular spinal atrophy, but then also have PTSD, which is invisible. So one is visible to the naked eye in terms of what people perceive to be a disability, and then the other one you can't see. So what do you do then? Give you another statistic. There are over 1 billion people. We just hit, I believe, was it 9 billion in the fall of last year? 1 billion people on the planet have some form of disability, chronic illness, medical condition. And so when I first found that out, I was a bit perplexed as to why, if that is the case, why does it seem like disability is the smallest minority, first of all, when it is the largest? Secondly, why isn't the world more fashioned to accommodate people with disabilities in every institution? A lot of that is because there is a stigma about invisible disabilities and disability as a whole, but especially things that we can't see. As humans, we don't like unknowns. We're not good at dealing with variables that we can't control. So what do? We try to project them on the community that actually is living with those unknowns and those uncertainties. Another thing that we don't like doing, we don't like not having concrete answers. So we'll make something up. 2 of the things that cause some of the most trauma when navigating invisible disabilities, especially when it comes to the medical system. So in the workplace, we have a lot of work to do. I would say follow the same case-by-case procedure. And also recognize that there will probably be more opportunities than you would expect, or like in some cases, to actually educate those around you. Because I promise you, if you show up and you have ADHD or something like autism, people are going to have their preconceived notions of what that looks like. Like, most people know what it looks like in white males, but most people don't know what it looks like in Black males. Most people know what it looks like in males in general, but less people know what it looks like for females, especially adult females. So like, people are going to have their preconceived notions of what, when you say you have your disability is. But the thing is, you can't live by people's response or lack thereof. That's one of the things that contributes to us feeling trapped in the workplace and in academia, because we get so burdened by, this person didn't believe me. And one of the hardest things that I've had to learn is say my piece. If people receive what I have to say, if they ask questions, like, if that's great. If they don't, keep it moving. Because what happens is we spend more time with the the 1% that didn't get it. And we completely forget about the 99% that actually wanted to learn from us. And that goes for social media, and that goes for offline as well. So in the interest of time, I'm going to skip down to the last one. The reason why I could have taught you how to make a post, but I imagine most of y'all know how to use social media to a certain degree. But what a lot of people won't tell you is that your character is the thing that prepares you for content. Everything that I've mentioned and two of the other things that I didn't mention are what prepare you to have effective approach in a following or what have you online, whether you have your own website, whether you have a page on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. Because ultimately, if you have the identity, the representation, the perspective, the self-disclosure, and the other two were motivation and presence, which means being your full self, bringing your full self, 100% of you to whatever you put your hands to. You have those things in place. It won't matter to you if you get 10 likes or 100 views. It won't matter to you if your family members support your page or one person supports your page. It won't matter if you get popping off of one video and then have never been seen again in the algorithm. It won't matter to you because you recognize the purpose for which you're creating the content, your why, and how specifically that experience is tailored to you. You might only be able to upload one time a week where someone can upload 5 times a week, but you are you. Keep doing what you need to do to get your message out there or to present yourself, your brand, professionally and personally, authentically and impactfully. Thank y'all for your time. If you have any questions, just let me know.
Outstanding. Outstanding. And you know, that message, Mayia, is so relevant right now too. And I know we've still got career advocates on the line with us, guys. That's an important piece of us to take away from this message too, because part of the role of a career advocate is to leverage that social media outreach to students on campuses. And that's going to look and feel really different depending on where you are. And so I love this. And Mayia, boy, I would welcome again additional conversations with you and with the students and this career advocates as we think through opening up this conversation. And for some, it's the first, some of the first times that they're having conversations around their disability, and maybe they've never disclosed before, and it's a non-visible disability, and now they find themselves on a college campus and they're being approached about this program of CommunAbility mentoring. And if you're a student with a disability, but there's that struggle of how do I disclose? What does that mean? So again, thank you so much for the content, your message, and I'm just so grateful for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And I know that the conversation is going to continue. I know that we've got several messages in the chat that we'll definitely be following up and responding to those as well. As we plan for our next session, our next group mentoring session happens on March 22nd. John Robinson is going to be joining us to take a deep dive into the Jobsability portal and help in educating us on the opportunities we have to build that networking and resume, and again, a focus on the importance of building that career profile on our portal. So again, join us same time, 3 to 4 p.m. on March 22nd. And again, thanks to our mentors, our mentees that joined today. Janila, I saw you join. Thank you so much. Our career advocate from Bennett College. And just appreciate the work that you all are doing. Keep the conversations going. And we will see you back again on March 22nd. Have a great rest of your day.